This is a station identification moment. You're listening to CPR Worldwide Media, a division of CPR Media Network, coming to you live right across the planet. Check out our website at www.cprworldwidemedia.com and our Facebook page at facebook.com/CPR Worldwide Media. This is CPR Media Network, coming to you live from the USA.
Well, looky here, a new listener. Hey, this ain't your little sister's radio station.
I believe that every single one of us has what it takes
to win back-to-back gold.
Ski faster than any other human.
I believe it's possible to overcome fear.
I believe
it's possible to destroy stereotypes.
To start over, to be the toughest,
the strongest,
the bravest in the world. When we work together, we can make it all possible. That's why Citi has donated $500,000 to its Every Step of the Way program, an initiative created to help future athletes reach their full potential through sport programs that inspire us. Like figure skating in Harlem.
Like youth enrichment services. Like Team for Tomorrow.
The Team USA Stay on the Slopes initiative. Now spread the word and help decide how much of that money goes toward
offering personal support and financial assistance to Olympians in need.
Promoting the growth of hockey in the U.S.
Expanding the sport of luge into new regions.
Support for wounded service members. Join Team Citi and let's turn a world of potential into reality.
Go to citi.com/everystep and help decide where the money goes.
It's not about how many miles you can get out of the C-Max Hybrid. It's about how much life you can fit into it. The Ford C-Max Hybrid, with an EPA estimated range of 540 miles on a tank of gas, and all the room you need to enjoy the trip. Go stretch out. Go further.
You think you know the story of Dracula. You have no idea. But I'm going to show you.
My enemies threaten to destroy my kingdom. I want the power to save my family.
Drink.
Welcome to your life.
My name is Dracula.
There's a room where the light won't find you.
What's happening to you?
I chose this. Because men do not fear swords. They fear monsters.
This is not who you are.
There's always a prize for power.
Everybody wants to rule.
I will not be defeated!
Dracula Untold, in theaters and IMAX, October 10th. The Ouija board has existed for centuries. It is used to communicate with the dead.
If there's a presence here, please make yourself known. This is a joke. Oh my God. It's not even real, okay?
It's just a game.
Ouija.
We're saying goodbye!
Rated PG-13.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Welcome to the State Legislators Roundtable. Your host will be Charles Kacprowicz, Executive Director of Citizen Initiatives and Countermand Amendment. Our special legislator guests will be discussing important issues in their states that relate to federal encroachment on states' rights. The nonpartisan Article 5 single-issue Countermand Amendment can remedy many states' issues peacefully without the consent of Congress, the courts, or the executive branch. We will reclaim our constitutional republic soon. The nonpartisan Countermand Amendment is the missing piece of the Article 5 puzzle. Our nation is coming apart at the seams. So, we are countermanding.
Had the honor of meeting as many as 100 state legislators in this year through our roundtable. These legislators are, in fact, America's finest statesmen who are working earnestly to find solutions to federal encroachment on states' rights. The State Legislators Roundtable has been growing. We have become one of the fastest growing talk shows on the internet. Recently, our listening audience grew to 50,000 listeners, with 55 affiliated radio stations rebroadcasting the Roundtable live. To learn more about the Countermand Amendment, go to countermands.us. Also, call your friends, relatives, and associates. Tell them to tune into this show at cprworldwidemedia.com. They will also be able to participate in our online chat as well. Our roundtable can also be heard on pnntalkradio.com on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Tonight's special guest is Representative James White from Texas. I have looked carefully at his bio, and I tell you, I am impressed with this man. First of all, I think that our political and social values are pretty much in line. But I just want to let the audience know, before we go any further, who he is and a little bit about his background. First of all, he serves in Texas. He's in the House of Representatives. He serves on the committee, several committees. One is the Agriculture and Livestock Committee. He's on the Corrections Committee, and he's the vice chair. He also is on human trafficking. Someday I'd like to talk to him more directly about that. Included in his biography are the following statements. Hold on, please. James graduated with honors from Prairie View A&M University in 1986 with a degree in political science and military science. He was a commissioned officer in the U.S. Army, where he served his country in assignments throughout the world, most notably from 1987 to 1990 in the Berlin Brigade during the demise of the Soviet Union. I was part of that, even before that. He completed doctoral studies in political science at the University of Houston and has taught the social sciences on the middle school, high school, and undergraduate college level. James has also coached high school football and basketball and officiated youth sports in his spare time. I don't know where he has spare time. One more paragraph. Elected to the Texas House of Representatives in 2010, James is a strong advocate for the residents of District 19 and committed to ensuring the people of Hardin, Jasper, Newton, Polk, and Tyler counties are well represented in their state legislature. James is a passionate and effective advocate for the fundamental values of strong families, constitutional government, lower taxes, and economic prosperity. He puts those values into practice as a member of the Republican Caucus, Tea Party Caucus, Legislative Black Caucus, Rural Caucus, Manufacturing Caucus, Energy Caucus, and the Texas Conservative Coalition. James is proud to call Tyler County his home, where he maintains a small cattle ranch. Wow. He is also a member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, American Legion, and the Texas Farm Bureau, and he worships at Hillster Baptist Church in Hillster, Texas. Representative White, I am delighted to have you as our guest this evening, and you are free to share anything that's on your mind with regard to issues that you and your state have with encroachment by the federal government, that we might also be able to address them in light of the Countermand Amendment, which we are presenting at the same time throughout the states. So Representative White, thank you for coming on board and being our guest this evening, and just feel free to share what's on your mind.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm extremely proud to represent 5 outstanding counties in southeast Texas: Polk, Tyler, Jasper, Newton, and Hardin counties. Thank you for having me on your show tonight. It's an honor from a Texan to be all the way up north by the North Pole almost, I guess. It's great to be with you this evening.
Thank you, sir. Yes, our national director is an Alaskan, and when we talk to him, we have to put our overcoats on because we get cold over the phone just by him telling us how nice it is up there at 0. So I understand what you're talking about when you discuss coldness going on.
It was 40 degrees today here, so don't go there.
That sounds like a sauna for Alaska, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It should.
Yeah.
Representative White, tell us what's going on in Texas that you're concerned about as it relates to the federal government.
Well, I think as far as Texas is concerned, Texas is really the economic engine for the entire country. When you look at our energy sector, our ports, and so the concern is, will the United States continue to allow Texas to be that economic engine, that shining light on the hill that will uplift the rest of the country and boost the economy of the entire nation?
Understood, sir. I would like to bring this thought to your attention and to our audience at the same time. We are actively engaged in advancing what has been called the Countermand Amendment in state legislatures throughout the states. We already have 14 states that are sponsoring our amendment. We expect to have 20 within about 30 days. We hope to have all 34 that we need for this application on Congress under Article 5 by the middle of next year. Our hopeful goal is to see ratification of this amendment in 2016. If we are successful and if the state legislatures cooperate, and so far they have been, we will be in a position to encourage the state legislatures to start countermand initiatives to address some of the issues that the states are concerned about. They could be issues dealing with land grabs. That is, Nevada, for example, has 81 or 88, I heard now. Mike, was that not right? 81% of Nevada's land is controlled by the federal government?
88%.
Incredible.
Then you got immigration.
Yes. Right. Immigration issues, for an example, even yesterday when our illustrious president decided that he was going to, with an executive order, grant a form of amnesty to maybe 5 million or more illegal immigrants, all of a sudden the Countermand Amendment is extremely important. Why? Because the states with only 30 states countermanding will rescind that executive order. So all of a sudden, the state legislatures have an enormous tool that they will learn to use for the purpose of preserving our constitutional republic, which is the whole purpose that we have in advancing this under citizen initiatives. Now, feel free, sir, to comment as you'd like to.
Yes, thank you so much for that. You know, we have a 10th Amendment for a reason, and it was really the states that created, the state legislatures to be specific, but the states created the national government, guys. And
absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
Yes, and when I look at issues like BLM land grabs, EPA power grabs, it's important for legislatures to have a tool to fight back. Now, I'm just going to be honest with you. I think we have enough tools now. We have legislatures. I think we should explore and actually initiate nullification acts where we just simply tell the national government we're not going to do it. A lot of people wonder how does that work. I just think the legislature just votes and sends a message to the governor and to the U.S. Congress that if you're going to come down here to Texas and you're going to literally put our coal industry out of business, we're just not going to participate. I believe if enough states started doing this, and even with the tool of Countermand, I think you would eventually and very quickly see the Congress start backtracking on a lot of this. Because, as you know, with anything, guys, politicians don't like to be preempted and undercut.
No, that's correct. And Representative James, I'm going to just make a couple of clarifying comments.
Okay.
As far as nullification is concerned, we are not adverse to that. The problem, though, that we see with nullification, it is not permanent. So let's take, for example, the Bundy Ranch problem with BLM, which was beginning of the year. Actually, it was last year. The fact is that the BLM backed off, and they decided not to shed blood, even though the militia was on the other side. They decided to back off, and as a result, the issue is now in abeyance. But the law that the BLM people had to authorize them to enforce this onslaught against Nevada and the Bundy Ranch is still in place. And so whatever the issues were before, they didn't go away. And one of the problems that we see when just relying on nullification is that because of the supremacy clause in the Constitution and because of the necessity and proper clause, which makes the government almost invulnerable when it comes to state legislatures trying to push them back, the fact remains that there are no tools in place, as the Constitution has been defined to date, that allows the states to say to the government, the federal government, we had enough. You could say that you will nullify something by not obeying it or not doing it. That's understood. And that becomes a case perhaps in the courts. It also could become a case of military action, as we had in Arkansas and so forth in years past. So all of a sudden, nullification, though it has merit on an individual basis, on a collective basis with 30 states, which is what we are advancing with the Countermand Amendment, that 60% of the states, once 30 states countermand a particular law, let's say on a law in the EPA that is redefining energy production, and we're going to countermand that law. Well, once it's countermanded, the state legislatures have literally said to the federal government that law is now rescinded automatically. They can no longer apply that law against any state because 30 states said on that issue, it's over with. I'm sorry, I wanted to point that out to you.
No. I think you got a good point, because even those of us that have been in the nullification, I guess, realm, it's really finding a practical, orderly way to push back against, in a constitutional way. I want to add that, an orderly constitutional manner to push back against the national government. And I think this is one of the bright spots about the Countermand initiative, is that it does provide that. And if you really look at it, it is a form or a hybrid of nullification. I think it was John C. Calhoun. He had maybe, about 7 or 9 different actions or definitions for nullification. And I think, obviously you could add countermand to this because it's still an action where states have a constitutional orderly means to exercise their 10th Amendment right, and at the same time send a very, very important point or send a very important message to Congress and the federal government. You really need to watch yourself.
Yeah, that is correct, sir. And not only that, when the government makes laws or the regulatory agencies make rulings or the courts make court decisions, with this countermand in place, guess what? They will be writing those laws in a way that is more amenable to the states because they will know that they could be countermanded and rescinded. And so now the states become partners in a government that ought to be balanced. And since you were correct when you said earlier, sir, that the legislatures created the federal government, absolutely. And that's why sovereignty that they had early on was passed on in Article 5 so that you guys can still push them back when they go too far. You didn't surrender that sovereignty. It's just that most legislatures over the last 40, 50 years have been tricked into thinking that they don't have that sovereignty. And so as a result, the federal government has grown stronger and stronger, and the states have gotten weaker and weaker. But you're right on target when you say that.
Yeah, and here's another point. If you go to Madison's writings in the Federalist Papers, and there was this idea is that what would be some institutional checks on federal power? Once he talked about the extended republic. The idea that over time the republic will grow in population, and by growing in population, you will get new interests that will be introduced, and these new interests will counter the old interests, and therefore you could check majority tyranny. Another system that he talked about beyond the extended republic was the compound republic. The idea that you would have this federal system where you would have a national government and you would have a state government, and that you would have this healthy conflict between the national government and the state government, thereby securing and protecting the individual liberties of the people.
Amen. Amen. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, when you look at our Constitution, you had these institutions in place for the compound republic. One of those was that our Senate, our U.S. Senate, was initially composed of senators that pretty much were elected or appointed by their state legislatures. So the states as entities had a chamber or a branch of government that was responsive to them. Now, we had an amendment that pretty much made the popular vote for the Senate. And so you have weakened the effect of the compound republic. I believe one of the virtues of the countermand is that you're bringing the state legislatures back into play. And that has been a glaring deficit through most of the 20th century and into the 21st century.
Representative White, you are right on target. I think that our thinking is identical. I think, too, that Texas especially has an air of independence about it and understands the importance of a sovereign nation-state type status for that republic. I want to talk a few moments about, and as we lead into other areas that you may want to expound on, but I want to talk for a moment about sovereignty as you had defined it, or at least addressed it a moment ago. When those legislatures back in 1787 ratified the new Constitution, and it was not a usurpation of power over the Articles, that's an erroneous argument, but at any rate, when that legislature had ratified that Constitution, it included Article 5, and the biggest issue that they had to address in that Constitution, even before the convention was started, was sovereignty. Because they were all nation states before that. And under the Articles, they had the right, any one state could hold the other 12 hostage just by saying no in any amendment to their Articles. So there was a paralyzing effect that almost cost us the war. But at any rate, when they finally agreed, the Confederation Congress as well as the legislatures agreed that the delegates would be able to address other issues besides the Articles of Confederation and try to find a document that the states could live with. What happened is they needed to settle the sovereignty issue. And even before the deliberations at the convention started, the problem was many of the states that had the larger populations, they said, we want votes at the convention to be based on population. Well, you can see that's a democracy. And then the smaller states, they said, no. We want the vote, one vote per state because this is a republic. And if you're a republic, you have to have equal status for each republic that's in that nation. So that was a big battle. And this fellow, George Witt, who had formed a committee, he was one of the delegates. He's a very bright lawyer, among the greatest at that time. He was a friend of Madison and Hamilton and the others. At any rate, he was assigned the task of trying to resolve this problem. And he was able to get the the delegates to agree that it'll be one vote per state. That was the issue right from the very beginning. Now, every Article 5 Amendment Convention that would be developed or convened in the future will have the same issues to resolve. That's why we have a delegate resolution, which is a pre-approved contract that the legislatures have with their delegates, binding those delegates to specific instructions and to a specific text of the amendment that the legislature is telling the delegates, you're going as ambassadors, you're not going as free agents. That you as an Article 5 delegate are not equivalent to the founders. It's a totally different ballgame because there was no Article 5 when the founders were trying to create the Constitution. But afterwards, they made the Article 5 part of the Constitution so that that sovereignty could be passed down. Only now it wasn't by unanimous vote amend, it was by 3/4. So we have a wonderful history here, but we don't understand it correctly. At any rate, so you feel free to comment as you would care to.
Yes. There's been some discussion on the Article 5 convention process, and let me just say this. I think we are at such a critical time in our republic. Whatever means necessary that we have out there that we can use to rein in the national government, because this is what I've come to the conclusion. At one point, we thought we could rely on Congress to do it. If we were elected the right president to do it, the right man or woman to be president, if we elected the right faction or political party to control Congress, they could police themselves. But we're slowly finding out that that's not the case. And I don't think that's very surprising. And let me tell you why. Where is most of the policy innovation, especially conservative liberty policy innovation taking place? It's not taking place in D.C. It's taking place at the state level through the state legislatures. So it's going to be the state legislatures reviving and rejuvenating our constitutional government. We just can't just turn it over to Congress and expect them to call themselves into constitutional convention and fix it. The state legislatures created this federal government, and apparently we're going to have to be the ones that go in and fix it.
You're absolutely right, Representative. We can't agree with you any more than 110%. You're right on target. There is one other aspect of this issue of sovereignty that I want to talk about just for a quick moment. And then Mike Coons, our national director, wants to address energy issues in Alaska and Texas, and it'll be right after the break. We have about in 10 seconds we have a break. Apparently I'm losing time here. Folks, we have to go to break. We will take a short station identification break and hear from our CPR sponsors. We will be back shortly. Please stay with us. There is much more to come. Representative White, just hold tight, please, for a few minutes.
This is a station identification moment. You're listening to CPR Worldwide Media, a division of CPR Media Network, coming to you live right across the planet. Check out our website at www.cprworldwidemedia.com and our Facebook page at facebook.com/CPR Worldwide Media. This is CPR Media Network, coming to you live from the USA.
Well, looky here, a new listener. Hey, this ain't your little sister's radio station.
I believe that every single one of us has what it takes
To win back-to-back gold. Ski faster than any other human.
I believe it's possible to overcome fear.
I believe
it's possible to destroy stereotypes.
To start over, to be the toughest,
The strongest.
the bravest in the world. And when we work together, we can make it all possible. That's why City has donated $500,000 to its Every Step of the Way program, an initiative created to help future athletes reach their full potential through sport programs that inspire us.
like figure skating in Harlem, like youth enrichment services, like Team for Tomorrow.
The Team USA Stay on the Slopes initiative. Now spread the word and help decide how much of that money goes toward
Offering personal support and financial assistance to Olympians in need.
Promoting the growth of hockey in the U.S.
expanding the sport of luge into new regions.
Support for wounded service members.
Join Team City and let's turn a world of potential into reality.
Go to city.com/everystep and help decide where the money goes.
The design of the Ford Escape is clearly intended to grab your eye. Oh, and your foot. Huh, ain't that a kick? The Ford Escape with the foot-activated liftgate. Go open up something interesting. Go further.
Come on, Harry! Dumb and Dumber 2 is the #1 movie in America.
Am I right? What?
Seriously, it's #1.
These guys are morons! I like her a lot.
Dumb and Dumber 2, rated PG-13, now playing. The Ouija board has existed for centuries. It is used to communicate with the dead.
If there's a presence here, please make yourself known. This is a joke. Oh my god. It's not even real, okay?
It's just a game.
Ouija,
We're saying goodbye!
rated PG-13.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Welcome back, folks, and I thank you so much for staying with us. This is Charles Kacprowicz, and I am the Executive Director for Citizen Initiatives and the Countermand Amendment. We've been having a powerful discussion here with Representative James White from Texas, a man who has a wonderful history and career, a military man, a man who knows what it means to be disciplined. He has an interest for his citizens in his district in a way that few have expressed it, and he has a lot of experience in a lot of different areas dealing with problems that the states are contending with as they relate to state and federal encroachment on states' rights. So if you want to hear more about our program and you want to learn more about it, go to countermands.us and you can read a lot about the work we do. There are buttons there for the Countermand Amendment itself. There's also another button for the Sovereignty Amendment, which at another time we'll talk about. But also, you can actually have friends and your relatives and associates hear this program tonight. Tell them to go to cprworldwidemedia.com. That's cprworldwidemedia.com. And there's a chat box there that you can participate in as well. Representative White, I'm going to ask Mike Coons to make some comments dealing with the subject of energy from an Alaskan viewpoint, and then you can respond to him as you feel free.
Okay, thank you.
Representative White, I went to a luncheon today with the Matanuska Business Alliance. Just so you have an idea, where I live at, we don't have counties, we got boroughs, and my Matanuska Valley borough is the size of West by God, Virginia. One of the guest speaker today was a J. Scott Jensen. He's the Vice President of External Affairs from ConocoPhillips, and that's one of the big three up here. We have ConocoPhillips, BP, and now I can't remember the other one. But anyway,
Exxon.
One of the things that he pointed out was that in order to get permitting to go for oil drilling, that I'm talking exploration, not production. We've been fighting this battle with the feds. It takes 7 years to get a permit, and then on top of all of it, we have the EPA involved. Then on top of that, we have the environmental groups who then file a lawsuit with the feds against Alaska. And then what happens is they've got this really neat little trick that they're now doing, where that the environmental groups file a lawsuit, and then the federal government behind closed doors comes to an agreement, so it never goes to a judge or a jury, and then they make rules and regulations based on that agreement that they did because of the lawsuit. So we get the shaft again. So I'm just kind of wondering, I know you guys down there in Texas not only do a major lot of refining, but you also do a lot of exploration. And then, of course, we got Keystone coming online, which is even going to be even more interesting. So how does Texas align with Alaska on this whole environmental EPA permitting process for being able to get in, to do exploration and production?
Well, I want to think that Texas aligns very much with Alaska. Energy is the lifeblood of liberty. Let's just put it down there. I'll put it on the table. Whether it's the ability of Texans or Alaskans or Americans, for that matter, to get into their car and freely go wherever they want to go because we have energy resources. I mean, our economic engine is based on having efficient, ample supplies of energy. And I really think that a lot of this EPA overreach is actually a broader goal or broader mission of people on the left side of the aisle to just gain more control over the American people. If you can control our energy, if you can control our health care, those are substantial industries that have a substantial impact on the liberty of Americans. And this is why some of the latest ruling or rulemakings coming out of the EPA are so dangerous. Because just think about this greenhouse gas rule, Mike. I was listening to a congressional hearing about it earlier this year. In the state of Texas, if we shut down all of our coal power plants, all of our natural gas plants, we would still not meet the standards in the proposed EPA greenhouse gas rule.
That's crazy. I couldn't. That's almost unbelievable.
Well, and then on top of on top of that, and I know Charles is going to get into this a little bit, but I wanted to kind of give you the good news that I gave to Mr. Jensen today after he gave his presentation. Because I introduced myself, and I am the national director, and I introduced myself and I told him what the Countermand, what we were doing, and I brought up to him. I said, "How many millions of dollars is ConocoPhillips and BP and all the other oil industries are spending just on these rules and regulations that come down from EPA, that come down from Department of Interior, right on down, right, all these things. And he said a lot. And I went, okay, with this Countermand Amendment, once it's ratified, and Citizen Initiative being the facilitator with Conoco and BP and the others, we can put together those rules and regulations that are outrageous, that do not have a positive impact or effect on safety or anything that other than that is something that some environmentalist wacko decided to come up with. And we can then take that down along with you and down to Juneau and put in for a countermand resolution. Then we get hold of you guys down in Texas and say, this is what Alaska's doing. We get hold of Utah and Colorado, who just now lost 1.4 million acres because of a grouse. And it wouldn't be any time at all. You'd have 30 states that could come up with the same countermand resolution that could repeal those rules and regulations, reducing the overall cost to the overall cost of a barrel of oil, and much less, the overall cost that they're putting out just to be able to get the oil out of the ground. And I'll leave you with this. I worked the slope. I used to work the slope as a paramedic, and the first job I was on, that back to that time, it was $14 a barrel. And I asked the superintendent, we were talking about it. He told me that because the EPA rules and regulations, it was costing them $14 a barrel to get a barrel of oil out of the ground. And that was when it was selling for $14 a barrel. And now it's even worse. So I'll back at you, then I'll turn this over to Charles once you have your say.
Yes. And you just reminded me something, Mike. I think the goal of the EPA is to have so many rules and so many regulations where it literally costs us out of of all these God-given resources we have underground. We have a growing country in Texas. We're a growing state. We're growing about 1,000 people a day. We need efficient, ample supplies of energy. I'm telling you, the finds that we're finding, natural gas finds, the fracking that we're finding, Mike, Texas alone with Alaska, but Texas alone could swing this country into energy independence, or to a point where we're actually energy exporters, providing the jobs and the economic revenue. I was told that in the state of Texas, one energy job creates about 20 to 25 other jobs. So we're talking about people being able to have good-paying middle-class jobs.
Not only that, Representative White, the fact remains that the energy industry is I don't know if it is the highest, but about the highest wage payer in any industry. I think the average oil and gas industry wage is like $83,000 a year. So why in the world would we allow the EPA and the left to destroy that economic base for our people? That's just unacceptable.
If I may interject on that from the job standpoint, at this Business Alliance meeting I went to today, they had a gentleman there from National Industrial Institute that's here in Palmer, and when this last legislation that came out of Alaska that actually really did a lot of good as far as the oil industry in the state working with them, his number of people that were attending his school tripled because ConocoPhillips and BP and the other ones were screaming for more qualified welders and truck drivers and people that could get up there on that slope and work. and these guys are going up the slope as basically just raw rookies and making $80,000 and on up to $150,000 a year. So it's huge economic.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the idea that from a national security standpoint, our nation can be energy independent.
Representative White, I want to confirm what you just said as something that we hold to. We have a video on our website. It's called the Energy Amendment video. I think you can click on it on the front page, but I stand to be corrected. I know it's on citizeninitiatives.org. But my point is, it tells the story about how, if the energy industry were allowed to explore domestic energy without these foolish and artificial restrictions by the left and the environmentalists and EPA and so forth, we not only would be having a growing economy that would stimulate other industries, as you had addressed just a little while ago, dealing with the number of people employed, but at the same time, we would actually produce a GDP large enough to pay off our debt perhaps in 15 years. And at the same time, again, we could be the major exporter of energy because we've got hundreds of years of energy that we know of. And if you add to that the idea that the earth recycles, which is a real problem for the environmentalists, they never talk about that. They never talk about the earth having a natural method by which to recycle the air and so forth, or even the water. But the point is, because it recycles, my guess is, I have no way to substantiate this, but my guess is that energy doesn't recycle, but what it does, under the pressure and heat and elements that are in the center of the earth, different bodies of energy are produced, whether it's coal or whether it's oil or gas, that it's a constant process going on inside the earth. So we may have an unlimited supply if that be true. And why do we shut this off? For the ideology of the left, it's got to stop. The Countermand Amendment can stop it.
Yes, it can. It's something that we need to explore, because we're not only talking about national security, we're talking about an economy, we're talking about, just a way of life in this country. And even going into the debate about the Keystone Pipeline, Southeast Texas, Spindletop, this is the capital. This is, Southeast Texas is the birth town or the birth region for the American century that centered on energy, fossil fuel. So the idea that Southeast Texas can't safely and efficiently do pipelines, that's what we do. And we've been doing it for over 100 years now.
Yes, I understand. And we're just delighted to hear you feeling as strong as you do about it. I want to address another, for the sake of our audience, and I think you have already come to understand what I'm about to briefly say, because this program is going to be over with in about 8 minutes or 10 minutes, this hour anyway. I want to talk about the Countermand Amendment and how it has been developed. Many legislators from around the country, as well as citizens, have helped to compile the documentation that we have. On our website, countermands.us, there are 3 documents that are very, very important that we are working with state legislatures to have the legislatures in the states adopt, so that this can be a safe convention. By the way, the idea that the convention can be a constitutional convention, and that's dangerous according to the guys on, the John Birches, the Constitution Party, the Libertarians and so forth, they've got it wrong. The Fifth Amendment simply says it's for proposing amendments. Now, you could change that as the legislatures, but right now it's for proposing amendments. So if, in fact, you wanted a constitutional convention for the purpose of changing the whole document, which is what their argument is, I believe what you would have to do is secede from the Union. You would have to call your own convention, adopt your own constitution, and then form your own government. And then you could do it, but you can't do it under Article 5. It's not permitted. So that's an observation that I thought maybe would be good to bring out. But there are 3... Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, one of my observations of the Countermand Amendment, and it's not like I'm walking through my district and citizens are saying Countermand Amendment, but what I'm now hearing is they want the federal government to just stop They don't necessarily want more amendments to the Constitution. People don't necessarily want more laws stopping the federal. They just want whatever the federal government is doing now to stop, and then rolling back stuff that's already there before we get to something new. So, one thing about the Countermand Amendment, it kind of captured the zeitgeist of the day of just the citizens screaming at the top of their lungs, saying to government, just stop the assault on our liberties.
It does indeed do that, and plus, it gives the legislatures the tool that they need to make that happen. There is one part of the amendment that's very important, and that is the enforcement provisions. We know that the federal government is very selective on what laws it wants to enforce and what laws it doesn't want to enforce, especially under our present administration. And so what happens here with the Countermand Amendment in Section 5 and 6, what we have is the statement that if there is an intentional violator who is denying the states the right to use the Countermand Amendment properly, as defined in the amendment, that he or she or the organization can be charged with a criminal act and be subject to up to 5 years in prison. Now, the second part of it in Section 6 says this: if the federal government, from the time of the alleged violation, if the federal government refuses to prosecute that intentional violator, then after 90 days, the state legislatures or the states can do it under state laws. Now think about that. All of a sudden, the states can say to the federal government, do your job, but if you don't, we will. Now there is a prohibition dealing with 2 or more states cannot charge an intentional violator with the same crime simply because that would be double jeopardy. So there would have to be a coordination between the states as to which state would actually provide the prosecution. But the point is, it has teeth. It has a way for the state legislatures to say to the federal government, look, we're not looking to cause trouble for you. You have a legitimate role. That's why we're restricting ourselves to needing 30 states or 60% of the states rather than 10 states. But we want you to respect us, and we want you to understand we have interests that you haven't been concerned with. And this will make you either do it in a way that is going to be amenable for the 2 of us, or we will be able to use our own force through our own laws and put you back, even in this area of intentional violators. So go ahead and share, sir, what else you'd like to tell us.
Well, yeah. Oh, you're talking to James?
Yes, Representative James, please do so.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Well, you've got to have something to compel. You've got to have some type of enforcement technique. Because you're right. Just look at the latest royal amnesty that was initiated last night. You're going to have to be able to have a enforcement mechanism. So. And also, what I want some other folks to know about the Countermand Amendment is that it really only applies to actions that are outside of Congress's Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution.
It doesn't.
So, yeah. So if this is, and the idea is that the federal government really shouldn't be doing anything outside of Article 1, Section 8 anyway. Okay. And I think our framers would be absolutely embarrassed that we would even have to have a Countermand Amendment, because the balance between the states and the federal government is so much out of whack.
Yes, it is, sir. And as much as I sympathize with the legislatures, I have 2 observations. One of which is the problem that we have today with this, with docile state legislatures, was caused by legislators. They simply fell asleep for the last 40-some years or 50 years, not recognizing who they are and what when they got elected, they were thinking of politics more than they were thinking of statesmanship. I listen to you and I hear a statesman. We've had probably close. I was counting up the number of guests we've had on this program. I don't have an exact number, but we're starting to get close to 100 state legislatures. I cannot think of one of them who I would not see as a statesman, because they are trying to find solutions for problems that they have in their states and in the nation. And it's not because they're trying to gain points. They're just trying to find a way to solve problems. And they're doing it, like your background, for example. You've got an extensive education. You are not only an educated man, but you are a man who has a lot of business and even military experience. That is a man that you could have gone out and done something else and made a lot more money. But you said, no, I've got to serve my state down here in my district. And so you've subjected yourself to the limitations that imposes on you. But that's because you want to do right by your state. And I respect the fact that these men and women who have come on this show have been so patriotic and heroic in their efforts trying to find the solutions that will make us a constitutional republic that will be better for all of us. And that's the second part. The state legislatures, they fell asleep, but at the same time I do believe that only the state legislatures under Article 5 can restore our constitutional republic. No one else. And that's because of the authority that you have in Article 5 that we've been talking about with you for the hour program that we have.
Yes, sir. Yes. And if I could squeeze in another thing, if you read through the Federalist Papers, guys, it was sort of meant that the state legislatures were going to be the palladium or the guardian of the liberty of the individuals, citizens in their states, because it was the whole idea that you had this federal government being created, and nobody knew what type of animal that was going to turn into. And the idea was that, no worry, guys, don't worry. We've got state legislatures that have been well established. They would not create a constitution and a national government that would usurp their powers, and they would be the ultimate guarantors of the individual liberties and freedoms of the people.
Absolutely. We're in 100% agreement, and the state legislatures are the only ones who have the sovereign authority to do just that. And so for that reason, we support them. Now, for the purpose of promoting, informing the audience and even you, I will be leaving on a 4-month tour of the state legislatures starting on the 12th of December or the 11th of December. I will be many state legislators have asked me to attend certain legislative committee meetings for the purpose of helping their legislatures understand what the Countermand Amendment is. Out of the 14, I'll probably be seeing all of them at least once during that spread, but we also have many other states that are favorable. Now, for those of you who would like to follow our itinerary, you can go to countermands.us, and tomorrow there will be a schedule of the events in the different states. If you want us to visit your Tea Party event or your Republican committee event or some other group, I will be available in your capital, and we will be glad to try to arrange our schedule accordingly. Now, Representative White, we are going to have to go to our top of the hour break, which means that our program is almost over. I have a short introduction here I have to present for the purpose of introducing the break, but I want you to know you have been a real delight for me. I've enjoyed chatting with you, and it's just good to hear people who have clear heads. we delve in a world of people who believe things that aren't even factual, and they impose their will on others on the premise that it is factual. But no, it's been a delight. Now we have 1 minute, sir. I want to thank you for coming. I'm going to go to sponsors now, and I will be glad to have you come back. I'm going to ask Mike Coons to contact you. We'd love to have you sponsor our amendment in Texas. If I can assist you, I will be in Texas sometime in the near future, I think on the 2nd of February. So I would be glad to meet with you at that time, and you would be a delight to spend some time with. So I'll have Mike contact you. Now let me go to break.
Thank you.
You're welcome,
y'all
sir.
so much, and y'all have a great evening.
Thank you. Folks, if you want to gain some information about our work, go to countermands.us. You can also donate $20 and get a free copy, a pre-published copy of Countermand Amendment, the missing piece in the Article 5 puzzle. We will be back shortly. We have to take a break for station identification and to hear from our CPR sponsors. Stay with us, please. There's much more at the other end, especially with We the Kids, on how our young people are learning how the Constitution was formed and how they should understand it. Come back, stay with us, and we'll be back soon.
With over 200 years experience, offering international banking expertise across over 100 markets. Your dedicated investment consultant adds a unique personal touch to your banking experience. Complimentary lifestyle offers like Marhaba service and free global money transfers help you save on time and money. At the core of Citigold is your dedicated relationship manager, personally looking after your financial needs. Be it lifestyle privileges like golf, lounge access across the Middle East, or worldwide privileges, Citigold provides you with a rewarding experience. One card is all you need for all your Citibank accounts. As a Citigold client, you benefit from our international expertise and global reach. Citigold is more than an account. It's a personal banking service offering exceptional privileges, customer service and recognition worldwide. So wherever you are, Citigold will be with you.
It's not about how many miles you can get out of the C-Max hybrid. It's about how much life you can fit into it. The Ford C-Max Hybrid, with an EPA estimated range of 540 miles on a tank of gas, and all the room you need to enjoy the trip. Go stretch out. Go further.
The Ouija board has existed for centuries. It is used to communicate with the dead.
If there's a presence here, please make yourself known.
This is a joke.
Oh my god. It's not even real, okay?
It's just a game. Ouija.
We're saying goodbye!
Rated PG-13.
Come on, Harry!
Dumb and Dumber 2 is the #1 movie in America.
Am I right? What?
Seriously, it's #1.
These guys are morons! I like her a lot.
Dumb and Dumber 2, rated PG-13. Now playing.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Welcome, folks. This is Charles Kacprowicz. I am the National Executive Director of Citizen Initiatives and the Countermand Amendment. Welcome to the State Legislators Roundtable. Roundtable discussions with state legislators and community leaders center around critical issues in the states as they relate to federal encroachment on states' rights and how the nonpartisan Countermand Amendment can remedy them safely and quickly. Now, tonight we have a special program in our second hour. We have a personal friend of mine, Judy Fisher, and I'll be telling you more about her in a quick moment. But the fact is, she and her partner, Lori Water-Sexton, are the founders of We the Kids. And they're going to talk a lot about how our young people are learning what our Constitution is about our constitutional heritage, and how it can be fun to learn how the work that they are doing can be presented both for the young people and for them as well regarding the Constitution of the United States. And I'm delighted to have you folks here. Now, Judy, you've been on this program once before.
Yes.
Our program has been growing. We've probably picked up 7 or so time slots just this week for recasting this show at different times. We're delighted with that. We're Right now we're on, we have 2 live shows a week, one tonight and the other one on Tuesday night at 9 o'clock. So for those of you in the audience who want to follow us, you can go to countermands.us. You can also call up your friends, call up your friends who have young people. Let them know that this is a special program for our young people who are learning how this Constitution has been put together. I have something I was reading to my earlier today. I thought maybe this would be important to at least start the evening off. Burning questions. This is part of the founding document for We the Kids. It's called Establishing Classroom Rules. Can students discover the importance of having rules in a classroom and link that discovery to the importance of having rules in our society? Objectives of this organization: students will identify the important rules for regulating a community or society. Students will identify 3 categories that rules fall under: respect, responsibility, and safety. Wow! Students will apply the rules for regulating a community to their own classroom. Wow! Students will connect classroom rules to a nation's constitution, to this nation's constitution. Folks, I'm telling you, you are about to hear a program from a group of people and young people that is second to none. And we have to try to find this kind of thinking for all of the schools that will open up their doors so that they will understand the heritage that they have in this Constitution. So, Judy, I'm going to ask you and Lori to feel free as you would like to tell your story, to explain to us what it is that's important to you, what you're trying to do. And when your young people get on this program, let's hear from them as well. And I'll ask you, Judy, to just kind of direct the conversation in their direction. It looks like there is at least one person on here now from a 404 area code. Another one.
That's me, Charlie. Steve Cronkite.
Okay. Oh, okay. And then there's a 574 number and a 57. There are 2 574 numbers. So that might be Judy and Lori. So I don't see anybody on here yet with the kids.
I have Tyler from Florida is supposed to call in tonight, and also 2 of the girls from, I'm hoping he calls in, and then also 2 of the girls from here in Indiana that have been involved in We the Kids from the very beginning. So I'm really hoping that they get an opportunity to call in.
Well, you feel free now to just share what you want to. Just don't worry about offending us. We're gonna love you what you have to say because we know a little about you. And just let the audience know why what you're doing is important.
Well, first of all, when Lori and I started We the Kids, and we started out back in 2009. We the Kids are 8. It's been, we're into like 6-7 years of doing this now. The website, what'd you say?
I said, yeah, it's been a while. I think it was 09.
09, yeah, the website has been up since 2010, but we started actually developing and designing the idea of We the Kids. The way that it started out was that we were talking about losing our Bill of Rights. Lori and I have been friends for many, many years. We started talking about losing our rights, and we're talking in front of Rachel Ann. Rachel, I think, was about 11 years old at the time, and Rachel said, "What about us kids?" I said, "Of course, what about you kids? You're losing your rights too." Well, that led into us talking about starting We the Kids. So Lori has a very strong background in history. She's from the East Coast. So our goal was to work together in creating and designing this website, and we've done it. Lori's part, well then, like I told you earlier before we got online, what's happened is Lori has had to drop in the background because she works a very, what do you want to say, a lot of hours. She had to go to work full time, so that took her out of We the Kids. One of the reasons I wanted her to come on tonight is because I wanted her to talk about what our goals were with kids getting out into their communities, talk and learning what they could do, what they could research, and how they could become very knowledgeable about their history. So Lori, from there, if you'll take it, Lori can't stay on the phone with us full time. So, Lori, if you'll talk a little bit about what we were doing, what we were thinking, and what we've done, I'd really appreciate it.
Okay. Well, in all honesty, when we first started talking, obviously we were talking about the rights that we were losing. We were talking about how the Constitution seemed to be fading into the background, and it definitely had not been being taught in schools anymore. We also started talking about American history, because my kids were coming home from school, and at the time they were all being publicly schooled, and they were coming home from school and they were telling me about European history. They were telling me about Asian history. They were telling me about African history. They were telling me sometimes about South American history, but very rarely did I ever hear anything about American history. And so I started we both actually started kind of digging into it, and we're like, our kids aren't being taught our own history. I mean, don't get me wrong. All of the history of the world is important. I learned it all when I was in school, but they were kind of touching real quickly on American history and then moving on to other things. American history didn't seem to matter at all. None of my kids hardly even knew that there was any more presidents besides Washington, Lincoln, and Bush at the time. And, they didn't know the process. They didn't understand what the Senate was, what the House was, why they were important, why we had elections, so on and so forth. So we started talking about it. And as Judy said, I'm from the East Coast. And one of the things that is absolutely rich about the East Coast is the history. One of the things that I did with my girls was I took them back over there at one point in time, and I don't think that you could go more than a few miles without seeing an historical marker. And so we started talking about the markers and who the people on the markers were and why it was important. And so, the more that we talked about it, the more we said these are the kinds of things that the kids can do. They can get out into their own communities. They can see how the history on the markers, possibly even, can be an influence in their day-to-day lives today. And they can get out and they can learn, who founded their towns, who are the famous people in their towns, what kinds of things can they, what the history is, period. A lot of the people, like, for example, Rachel's grandfather lived right next to a farm that was deeded to the family that still owns the farm by William Penn. And, okay, so who was William Penn and why was he important? And how did he figure in to the Constitution and the founding of the country and so on and so forth? So that's kind of where we started from.
Our whole goal was to get kids all over our country involved in learning their history, getting out, looking for markers, going to cemeteries.
I think we've actually lost a generation of kids. My son, my youngest, is 22, and he doesn't live with me, but his friends still come and visit me from time to time. I asked them to recite the Pledge of Allegiance, and first of all, they seemed embarrassed that I asked them, and secondly, they couldn't make it all the way through to the end of the pledge. They can now, but they didn't learn it in school.
They sure didn't. And on top of that, you're talking about at least 2 generations of young Americans who had suffered that loss while they were in school. And that's because we allowed it. And unfortunately now, I believe the Lord is raising up women like Lori and Judy and Steve as well for the purpose of restoring that lost heritage and lost value in our Constitution. I think that we've got a chance with this ministry and ministries that they support that are for the purpose of educating our young people. Fantastic. Anyway, we understand what you're saying, Kelly, and you're absolutely right.
And I hate to do this, folks, but this is Lori again. I am going to have to drop off. Is that all right, Judy?
Yeah, that's fine, Lori. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
I'll talk to you later.
Now,
thanks, Lori.
Now that we have Lori out of here, which is not good, but I'm glad that she had a chance to share her vision and the work that she's been doing. Let's talk a little bit now about what current work you're doing, Judy, and Steve as well, and give us some background on just how the importance of your work and how you are trying to educate and encourage and even stimulate our young people in understanding that we are an excellent nation that needs to be protected. Judy?
Well, yeah, currently what we're doing is we're going into, it's called Michiana Access TV, that's our local television station, and we're doing videos. I have kids coming in that are interviewing what we classify as American heroes. Anyone, well, it really doesn't matter. We the Kids is non-political. So we're asking, recently, we interviewed the mayor of South Bend. He's a Democrat. He came in, the kids asked him all kinds of questions from where he grew up, where he went to school, why he wanted to be mayor. He just came back from Afghanistan, what it was like in Afghanistan, and his position on the Constitution. So anytime we get kids involved in doing any projects, what we have them do is focus on whoever they interview, who their favorite history person is, why they're doing what they're doing, where they grew up, and the Constitution. We want everyone to tell these kids why the Constitution is important to them and why it's important to kids today. So what Steve and I joined forces probably about 6 months ago. Steve has Advance America and Sequest Kids. So We the Kids is now non-profit. We're under Advance America's 501c3. So with going forth with that, Steve and I have talked about it and decided to start history clubs throughout the United States. With starting history clubs, what we intend to do, what we're working on doing, is calling it WTK History Clubs and getting kids involved in actually reading the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Federalist Papers, Founders' Documents, anything to do with our founding fathers. The way we intend to do that is by having them set up their own history clubs, but also to be monitored by an adult. Steve, you want to talk a little bit about our history clubs and what we're doing there?
Yeah, the key strategy is that when you go into a school, they normally don't want you to come in with a curriculum and say, here, you should be doing this, because then that shows that you're sort of superseding the experts' knowledge of what would be the best way of introducing history or giving an education on history. So a less threatening way of trying to introduce kids to the true history of America and the founding documents and the founders would be to have a club status within the school. And then, as Judy was saying, you would have an adult monitor, a teacher sponsor, because most schools want to have a teacher as a sponsor of a club. So with that sort of a setup, then you can pretty much introduce a library of material for the kids to work with. And what we try to do is set it up so that the kids are going through this material, and then not as a debate per se, but they would have like two teams within their club. And one team would be able to ask the other team any question about the history of America, the founding documents. And the answer would have to come from recall. So it basically encourages the kids to remember, and I know it's a sort of a not popular term these days, but memorization by rote becomes a very critical part of remembering all these facts and figures about the founding and the history of America. When I was in junior high, 3 of my friends and I had a real big interest in tropical fish. So we went to the principal and asked if we could have an aquarium club, and there was absolutely no problem with that. So we got our teacher sponsor, and there are 2 main books that were like the Bible of people interested in tropical fish. So, excuse me. What we did was we read those books over a period of 2 years, and 2 of us would ask the other 2 any question possible out of the books. And over a period of 2 years, we had completely memorized those 2 reference books. So anybody could ask us the scientific name or common name, the habitats, the breeding characteristics, or just about any question on tropical fish, and we pretty much had all of it memorized.
Fantastic.
So that's what we feel creates a pretty strong foundation for the kids to go into this and really come out with a strong understanding of our history.
Let me interject a thought or 2 here. I want to make some read some quotes from some of our founders, 2 of them respectively, and they fit what you're doing. As a matter of fact, they complement what you're doing, and you are literally saying that you are attempting to do the work that they saw as a needed work in the future. Here's Benjamin Franklin. Only a virtuous people are capable of freedom. As nations become corrupt and vicious, they have more need of masters. Now, the audience should remember that earlier I read some objectives that this group has, and they were liking the discipline and rules of the Constitution to how their classroom would be conducted. Now, isn't that unique? They're actually using the Constitution as a guide to determine how to organize their classrooms and even their schools. And I'll add this thought to this conversation as well. Benjamin Franklin, being the senior delegate at the Constitutional Convention, he introduced a request for the delegates to have prayer before every session of the convention. I have lived, sir, a long time, and the longer I live, the more convincing proof I see of this truth, that God governs in the affairs of men, and if a sparrow cannot fall to the ground without his notice, is it probable that an empire can rise without his aid? We have been assured, sir, in the sacred writings, that except the Lord should build a house, they labor in vain that build it. And he goes on to say that we need to preface our meetings with prayer, calling on the creator of the universe. Now, why I bring that to our attention is because what you and Judy and Lori are doing is exactly what he and others at that time in this convention were concerned about. And then here's something from John Adams. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. Their definition of religious people means Christians. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. That's the key. We lost our ability to think as Christians. We think we have to compromise our values away just because someone says, well, that's not fair, we don't agree with you. I don't care that you don't agree with me. I'm not surrendering my constitutional heritage just because you don't agree with me. Go and learn some things and you'll find out what I'm telling you is right. And if you don't want to, then stay ignorant and go somewhere else. But you see, what you guys are doing is so important, so terribly important. Anyway, continue, Steve. You probably have more to add to that.
Well, I think what's one of the really great things about the club setup, the way we have it envisioned, is that going back to that experience in junior high, we had a blast challenging each other to see how much detail we could remember about the different tropical fish. And I think the same sort of thing would translate into the kids working with the founding documents and then trying to understand about the true and accurate history of America and the lives of the founding fathers. So it gives you more encouragement to learn when you have that sort of friendly atmosphere and that good-natured challenge between each other to see who can remember the most.
Well, Steve, here's one more quote you're going to like, and it's, again, it shows that your efforts to counter what Thomas Jefferson was concerned about is imperative. All tyranny needs to gain a foothold. Let me rephrase it. All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. So if you want tyranny to be part of your government, then be silent. And another that Scottish statesman, I forget his name, Burke, I think it was. He said the only thing that is needed for evil to prevail is for good people to remain silent or to do nothing. So you see, you're doing something. You're saying, hey, enough, we're pushing you guys back. We don't want to surrender our kids to you and your school system. We want you to learn what we're doing, because this is how this country got great. We didn't get great because we were atheists or because we were agnostic or because we were secularists. We didn't get great because we were liberals or progressives or Marxists. We were great because we were a Christian nation that feared God. Right. And that's what makes us different. Go right ahead.
Yeah, and then, Judy, go ahead.
I don't think you read this quote. I walked away from the phone for just a second. George Washington said a primary object should be the education of our children in the science of government. That's on my business card. I believe that. That's the foundation. God's the foundation of we the kids. Steve's a very strong Christian. I'm a very strong Christian. A true believer in Christ. With designing and starting this website because of what's happened in our schools, because prayer's been taken out of our schools, because they have Common Core in there, because they're not teaching history. This website is to counteract everything that's being done. It's working. It's working here in Indiana. It can work in every state. I've got people all over the United States paying attention to what I'm doing, what we are doing. I've started committees here in Indiana with what we're doing with going into the TV stations. And they love us. They absolutely love what we're doing.
Judy,
we've been in there 5 times now. Go ahead.
I'm going to interject because we have to go to break here in a moment, and I just have a few moments of introductory material. When we come back at the bottom of the hour, at the top of the hour, I should say, going into the top of the hour, when we come back, tell us how people can help you, and tell us also how they can contact you, where they can get further information, both you and Steve, and just promote whatever it is that you're doing, books or websites or whatever, and we will give you as much time as you need. Now, folks, the State Legislators Roundtable can be heard on Tuesdays at 9 p.m. and Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time at cprworldwidemedia.com. To learn about the Countermand Amendment, go to countermands.us, that's with an S. You can also order an autographed copy of my new book, Countermand Amendment, The Missing Piece in the Article 5 Puzzle. We have to take a short break for station identification and to hear from our CPR sponsors. We will be right back. Please stay with us. There is much, much more to come.
This is a station identification moment. You're listening to CPR Worldwide Media, a division of CPR Media Network, coming to you live right across the planet.
Why do cities shine so bright? It's the glow of opportunities, of ideas bouncing off one another, of countless people, every one of us, striving to succeed. Right now, in cities everywhere, ideas are being born. New thinking that will put us in awe of what people are capable of. That's what lights cities up. And helping people and their ideas to burn even brighter. So that communities, businesses, and you and I can grow. What if a bank made that its job? For more than 200 years, Citi's job has been to help empower people and business. Now, around the world, it's wherever people gather, wherever ideas come alive. It's wherever you are. The world's city.
The design of the Ford Escape is clearly intended to grab your eye. Oh, and your foot. Huh, ain't that a kick? The Ford Escape with the foot-activated liftgate. Go open up something interesting. Go further.
The Ouija board has existed for centuries. It is used to communicate with the dead.
If there's a presence here, please make yourself known.
This is a joke.
Oh my god. It's not even real, okay?
It's just a game. Ouija.
We're saying goodbye!
Rated PG-13.
Come on, Harry!
Dumb and Dumber 2 is the #1 movie in America.
Am I right? What?
Seriously, it's #1.
These guys are morons! I like her a lot.
Dumb and Dumber 2, rated PG-13. Now playing.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Welcome back, folks. This is Charles Kacprowicz with the State Legislators Roundtable. I am the Executive Director for Citizen Initiatives and the Countermand Amendment. We've got two special guests here tonight who are the founders and directors of special ministries and initiatives to our young people called We the Kids. They're going to tell you more about that and how you can learn to put the values that are so important to us in our Constitution into the minds and hearts of your children. I want to read something here, though, not unrelated, but at the same time helping the audience to see the work we do at countermands.us. We need the Countermand Amendment now more than ever. We are making constitutional history. Don't be left behind. Did you know that with the Countermand Amendment, we can rescind executive orders such as the recent one legalizing 5 million plus illegal immigrants, or federal court decisions that made traditional marriage illegal, or congressional budgets that add $1 trillion of new debt each year, or the Affordable Care Act, that is Obamacare, which denies citizens and professionals constitutionally protected rights of choice and free market principles, or we can rescind the Supreme Court's Roe v. Wade decision that amended the Constitution of the United States without ratification by the states, or we can rescind laws that prohibit the free exercise of our Second Amendment rights, or we can rescind EPA rulings, BLM, IRS rulings, DOJ, agency rulings that violate our personal liberties and states' rights and more. We can rescind unconstitutional laws and agency rulings without the consent of Congress, the courts, or the executive branch. Go to countermands.us. Learn what we're doing, learn how important this is, learn how you can help us. We do need help. We're working right now in the states. We have 15 sponsored states as we speak for this amendment. And we have perhaps another 5 or 6 that'll be on board in about 30 days, we think. We need help in every state. I will be traveling across the country over the next 4 months. I will be visiting at least 45 state capitals. I will be working with legislators, many of whom have asked me to visit their legislative committees for the purpose of helping their people understand how the Countermand Amendment will benefit their state. This is a critical trip. We need help with that. I'd like you to go to the countermands.us, make a donation. We need about $6,000 a month for the next 4 months. We would love it if you joined us in this task. Now, we're back on our program with Judy Fisher, founder of We the Kids, and Steve Granca, I should say, Director of Advanced America. Now, I would like, Judy, do you pick up the pieces here and just tell us what you're doing that will be of special interest to people with young children and their families?
All right. Hey, Kate?
Yes.
Hi, how are you? Okay, I've got Kate on the phone with us. Kate has been with We the Kids for about 3 years now. She's one of our WTK or KBN C Action News reporters. Kate, how old are you?
I'm 15.
And Kate and her sister Gabby have both been involved with We the Kids, and I would like Kate to tell you a little bit about who she is, what her interests are in doing, and what she's done with We the Kids. Is that all right, Kate?
That's great.
Yeah, and
Go ahead.
Kate, this is Charles Kacprowicz, and I am waiting for you to talk. I want to hear anything and everything you have to say.
Okay. My name is Kate. I'm 15. And We the Kids has been an amazing experience for me, and I really think it's an amazing experience for other children who participate in it. Being connected with public servants and other inspiring individuals launched a whole new perspective in me personally, and has really helped me more deeply comprehend the unique pride and respect they feel for our country. They love America, and they want the nation to improve. And I think We the Kids has also helped me realize that not only do politicians and other adults have a voice, but we have a voice. I have a voice as a child. But I think having a voice as a child means to open up our minds to learn and prepare to form the next generation of America. We the Kids has given other children with a passion or interest in America to have the experience and knowledge that will help us in the future. And We the Kids has given us the opportunity to see politicians as real people, and not just people who live through the TV and the news. I really personally enjoyed meeting extraordinary people in extraordinary situations, like Mrs. Christina Finn, who is known as the Pillow Mom because she launched a group that created personalized pillows for physically and emotionally wounded veterans. She is an inspiring example of people who saw a need and saw how she could play a huge role in filling that need and put her plans into action. I was really thrilled when Mr. Richard Murdoch, who was running for U.S. Senator from Indiana at the time that I interviewed him, while being flooded with requests from other adult reporters of his day, took the time to be interviewed by a child when he could have easily just said no. And I really believe that We the Kids is helping children have more of a voice in their community and have the desire to make a difference.
How old were you when you interviewed Richard Murdoch?
I'm not sure. I think I might have been 13, but I don't remember.
And what office was he running for at the time, Kate?
U.S. Senator.
Now that's wonderful. Before we go any further, I have two things. I know Mike Coons has a question, but before I put Mike on, I want everyone to know that they need to tell me how I can adopt this young lady. I want her to be in my family. You understand? I don't want anyone else to have her. She is just too precious. Now, Mike, would you please come on board and share what you have on your mind? Mike, by the way, Mike Coons is our national director, and he's out of Alaska.
Yeah, welcome back to the show. It's been several months. Last time we were on, I recommended some books from Jeff Shera. If you had a chance to take a look, has any of you folks had a chance to take a look at those? And if you have, I'd be interested in your feedback from a historical standpoint?
No, I can say I haven't, and I'm sorry that I haven't. This has been, everything with We the Kids has really started speeding up, getting busier. We're into the TV station doing videos, so I absolutely apologize for not getting that done. So let's try that again. I'll do it and get back with you on it if that's all right.
Yeah, that is just, you know, any of the Jeff Shera's books. He's got everything from 1770 all the way up through Okinawa.
I wanted to, if she could, I'd like for Kate to talk about what we've been doing in the TV studio, if that's
Yes,
all right,
that
Mike.
would be wonderful. Go ahead, Kate. You share what you have. Kate?
Oh, I guess I got lost.
Did I lose her?
Yeah, I got lost. I got dumped.
Okay.
But anyway, what I was saying was that if you want to, I know you're big into history, get back with, check out his books. Like I said, from 1770 all the way up to Okinawa. He's just got a new one out now about Chattanooga during the Civil War. Yeah, it's just phenomenal. He's a phenomenal writer and brings history into a whole different light that is easy to read and fun to read and inspiring to read.
Is Steve still on the phone too?
Yep, still here.
Kate, are you still on the line? Kate?
Yeah, we've dropped her. We've lost her.
All right. Well, at any rate, let me just make a quick comment about Kate and her sister Gabby. Gabby Hayes I used to know when I was a kid. Remember that cowboy that was part of Roy Rogers, I think? I'm being a little bit silly here. But seriously, I am thrilled when I hear young people taking up, one, their faith in such a serious way in the Lord Jesus, and two, having such an earnest interest in America's constitutional history. That thrills me to no end. It makes me feel like our work is not has much promise that we can accomplish in the days ahead. And I'm looking forward to hearing good things from your people. Okay, Judy, now you go ahead and share what you want at this point.
Well, what I wanted Kate to tell you about is her and Gabby interviewed Mariah Woolley. Just to give you an example of what we're doing, Mariah Woolley is 20 years old. We went into the studio. This was the first time that we had interviewed anyone. Mariah had had a serious illness when she was young, had lost her ability to talk, but through music regained a lot of her, overcome a lot of her issues. Well, Mariah plays the violin and wants to be a composer, a violinist. Her mom, Diana Woolley, works with We the Kids. So anyway, the girls interviewed her. It went extremely well. Mariah was very, very nervous. But if you go to We the Kids, it's wethekids.us, and you take the time to watch this interview, this kid was phenomenal. She talked about her illness. She talked about what's going on in America today, where she believes we are going as a country. And not only that, one of the main reasons that we interviewed Mariah was because Mariah has a family that signed the Constitution. So, very important interview. We also, one of the first things we started with was the Pledge of Allegiance. We had 31 kids that participated in the Pledge of Allegiance. I was given permission by Mrs. Lathonis Skelton, Red Skelton's wife, to use his original wording. It went great. We had 31 kids show up at the American Legion. They were extremely supportive. We had people volunteer their time to direct the kids and to make the video. Another video that we did not too long ago that actually Kate and Gabby were gone at the time. I had other kids come in and interview. We interviewed Sheriff Brad Rogers. He's a constitutional sheriff. He talked to the kids. With that group, we had about 10 kids, and he talked to the kids about the Constitution. At the end, he gave them all a Constitution book. That kind of event or project really sticks with these kids. Last month, we interviewed Carlos Mays. Carlos Mays is the senior advisor. He's the Latino senior advisor to the mayor of Indianapolis. He gave an unbelievable talk on the founding of our country, about the Constitution, about documents. The kids were absolutely amazed. I post a lot of stuff for the Indiana Homeschool Association, post our projects, they post our videos. One of the board directors said she said the video was awesome. Everybody really needs to go watch that video that Carlos Mays did. And then Wednesday, we interviewed the mayor of South Bend. Now, when I say that, a lot of this, what I'm doing is we're setting the foundation here in Indiana, but this can be done wide. I've got a lady in North Carolina that has started working with We the Kids. She has gone to a Madison Rising concert. Madison Rising has partnered with We the Kids. They're a very strong patriotic band. She went to one of their concerts and once again got to introduce herself. Pictures were taken with them. And Madison Rising, we're set up with them to Skype in, to have them Skype into schools to talk to kids about the Constitution and the Star-Spangled Banner. Well, anyway, Kimberly is working on starting a We the Kids club in her hometown. Florida is on our board of directors. Her grandson Tyler interviewed Colonel Allen West, General Jerry Boykin, on talking to Shona about starting a We the Kids History Club down there. And so doing the interviews, going back to what Lori said, what we are wanting is kids to get out into their communities, look for landmarks, go to cemeteries, find interesting things to write reports on, and then work them into being a KVN, See Action News reporter to blog about it, get credit in their history clubs, civic clubs, in school, in their home schools, by doing reports on them, videos or whatever. My granddaughter in Tennessee, this is another really good example. My granddaughter in Tennessee has, if you will, is no longer in the public schools, is being homeschooled. Hannah took it upon herself to go to the Cranton plantation. They live in Nashville. They live in the Nashville, Tennessee area. Went to the plantation, took pictures, and wrote a report on it. That's part of her history project. She'll get credit for it. So that just gives you a real quick example of everything we're doing. We the Kids has a very strong board of directors. We have teachers involved with us. So that kind of brings you up to speed as far as what we're doing. Go ahead, Charles.
Judy, you've done wonderful, and I'm extremely proud to be your friend and be associated with the work you're doing. Now, I want to ask, how does anyone in the audience get in touch with you?
Well, to go to WeTheKids.us, sign up for our newsletter, write me personally, Judy at WeTheKids.us, or call me, 574-315-1547.
Say that number
also,
again.
574-315-1547.
That's wonderful. Now, before we close, we have just a few more minutes left, and although I don't have a notice yet from the producer, but I know we're getting closer, I want to ask Steve, did you have anything else you wanted to add, sir, especially on ways people can contact you and support some of the work you're doing?
Right. The website for Sequest Kids is www.sequestkids.org. And my phone number is 404-434-0660. And
Excellent.
email is stevegronka@sequestkids.org.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Steve. Now, Sandy,
You're
are you
welcome.
Sandy, are you on the line right now?
Yes, I am.
Would you like to tell us what you're thinking as far as this interview is concerned, especially with Kate?
Well, I really think that this is a wonderful group, and what they're doing is really critical. One of the problems we have is the lack of education among our children. They don't understand how great this country is, and I think this is just absolutely wonderful. And I hope they can continue. And please, please donate to these folks and help them get going, if you can at all. And I'm so glad that I had a chance to meet with you tonight. Thank you for being on.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
If I have time, Charles, could I say one more thing that I didn't mention?
Go ahead.
We have a fundraiser going on through Texas Roadhouse. That's up on We the Kids. And we are being endorsed by Texas Roadhouse.
That's wonderful news. Wonderful news. By the way, Sandy Toth is our our executive coordinator and Georgia State Director. And she is in Georgia right now, and I tell you, she's sitting in a wheelchair. She's immobile. She goes through a lot of discomfort and pain, and yet I don't know a woman or a man who is a greater constitutionalist than Sandy. So, and she's been with me for many years. So I'm just delighted to be her friend, and I knew she would have something to add to this conversation. Mike, before we come to the closing prayer, did you want to add anything else to this discussion?
It's just that this is where there's so much. How do I want to say this? There is so much negative about kids today on the news, everything, and to see this, to know that there are kids out there, the organizations out there that are helping these good kids continue on and progress and mature and gain this knowledge is really inspiration. And keep up the good work. You're doing good work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
President
Appreciate that.
Steve and Judy, President Reagan once said, "We are in the battle for the minds and souls of men." I've added one word to that. We are in the battle for the minds and souls and lives of men. And whatever has happened to our knowledge of history, it is not being passed. Whatever we had before, it's not being passed on to future generations. And let me give you an example that is in addition to the work you're doing in our constitutional history. The Christian value set based on biblical truths is at odds with everybody. The fact is that the Marxists and the communists in the 20th century destroyed at least 100 million lives in order to install a godless, atheistic ideology, really a form of secular religion, on the peoples of the world. Over 100 million people were murdered by Stalin and Mao and Ho Chi Minh and a whole host of others in order to install this godly religion. Now, folks in the audience, I want you to hear what I'm going to tell you. The only thing and the only truths that can oppose that kind of ideology are the truths that we know to be in the Bible. And if you mock the Bible, you are mocking God, because he said, the fool says in his heart that there is no God. You understand what these people are doing. They are passing on to our young generations the value systems that made this nation great, that allowed God with his unseen hand to form this nation in a way whereby it honored him, and we were a God-fearing people. Now we think we're too smart for God. Now we think that everything about God is irrelevant. Well, I'm telling you, you secularist, you're nuts. You haven't got the foggiest idea what you're talking about. But these people represent a value system that is for the purpose of restoring a God-fearing people to America one more time. And I thank God for you, Judy. I thank God for Steve. And by the way, Judy, I'm going to send you adoption papers for Kate. I'll be getting them out tomorrow. And I want you to I'm going to be an honorary adopted father for this young lady. Maybe grandfather, okay? I just fell in love with her, and she's just absolutely superb. But at any rate...
Yeah, I'll tell her mom and dad.
Okay, all right. I want Judy, for you to take a minute or two and just close out what you want. Tell us how, anything else you feel like the audience needs to hear.
Hey, Charles.
Yes.
Before this, just really quick, Judy, have you seen that new video out by DeSozo, America, what it would be like without her? If you
I haven't.
If you haven't, you need to. It is probably the most powerful video on America and what we've done right over what the progressives say that we're done wrong, how the progressives have rewritten history, and it will choke you up. It's worth it.
We have 1 minute, Judy. Just give us a few thoughts.
All right. We're doing two things, two fundraisers. One is, like I said, through Texas Roadhouse, and we are being endorsed by Texas Roadhouse. The managing partner is a veteran. The statement is up on We the Kids. The other thing we're doing is selling David Bowman's book, What Would the Founding Fathers Think? Every teenager in America should read this book. Funny, excellent. He's witty. He was endorsed by David Barton and Rick Green of Wall Builders. $1 of each book that is sold goes to Operation 300, the Aaron Vaughn Foundation. Aaron was killed.
One more thing, Judy. I have to cut you off because we're going to have a short prayer in a moment. The fact is, Steve, you got 10 seconds. Want to say something?
Just that it's imperative for kids to know the true history of America, and not this rehashed liberal translation of what they think history should be instead of what it really is. So,
amen. That's fact.
Yeah.
Very much. Now, as is my custom, I do close our 2-hour broadcast with a 2-minute prayer. So if those in the audience will join with us, that would be wonderful. Judy and Steve, I know you'll join with us, the same with our directors online here. So I'm going to just look to the Lord and thank Him for this wonderful evening. Father, we come through our Son, your Son, Jesus Christ, our Savior, and we thank you that we have this privilege. Lord, you've given us a wonderful program tonight. We met a wonderful man in Texas by the name of the Honorable Representative James White. Just a delightful discussion that we had with him. And I just pray that you'll bless that man, bless his family, bless every part of his work down there, that he would shine because he knows the importance of our Christian history. Also, I want to thank you for Judy, and I want to thank you, Lord, for Steve and for Lori, and especially for Kate. And yes, I do make a little joke out of adopting her, but Lord, we need millions of young people like her. We need people, young kids all over this country who are interested in you and this country that you've given us with this constitutional republic, so that we can pass that on to the next generation. So, Lord, we have needs. We are working to advance the Countermand Amendment in the states. I pray, dear God, that you'll raise up the funding that we need, which is critical at this hour for this 4-month trip. We also pray, God, that you'll raise up the supporters, that you'll give us wisdom and courage and the ability to make this thing a success, that ratification would come in 2016. Lord, we trust you for the victories that we need so that you will be honored, that we will see ourselves returning one more time to being a God-fearing people. Forgive us for the terrible sins we've committed, Lord, that you might, through your grace and your mercy and your love, restore us to the place where you will be pleased and honored with America one more time. And we ask it in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.